Yeah, Andrew,
Holy smokes.
we've got a quorum.
Wow. I feel like this is amazing. Oh. Did you see when you tried to scroll?
I already tried it. That's why it's not.
Ready for winner?
Yes.
No.
How are we?
I'm pretty excited. I do. Yeah, I've got a snowmobile and skis.
And guess we are ready to begin.
Okay.
We have a quorum, so I'll call this meeting of the Planning Commission to order. It's Thursday, October 26, 2023. I've asked Member Wilson to give an opening prayer, and then will you rise and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for the opportunity we have to meet together tonight in this capacity as a planning and zoning commission in the service of the people of the great county of Oregon. We're grateful for the people who live here. We ask a blessing upon ourselves and upon the county as well. This night we may be able to go through with these items of business in a proactive and beneficial manner. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion
So
to approve?
moved.
Would you want us to strike number 9 now as we approve? Can you make that with striking agenda item number 9? In that motion, Andrew?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Anyone with any item on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Now's the time for public comment. We have one public hearing tonight on the Basin Development Agreement Amendment. So if you want to make a comment on that, we ask that you wait till that time. But if you have any other comment you'd like to make with any other agenda item or anything else, would you like to address the Planning Commission? Now is your time to come up. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 6. Discussion, public hearing, decision on the Basin Development Agreement Amendment, First Amendment.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. Item number 6 on tonight's agenda is for application number 23.052. This is a request to add proposed language allowing the live-work development as a defined use within the commercial areas of the Basin Development Agreement. The applicant is CW Land Co. This project is located approximately at 5000 West Old Highway Road in Mountain Green. The current zoning is town center with, of course, the overlay of the development agreement. And this application is dated August 15, 2023. Simply enough, staff has reviewed this project and finds that it meets all minimum code requirements for a development agreement amendment. We recommend approval of this item for the following reasons. The Val Paul live work text amendment was approved June 20 of this year with ordinance number CO 23-09 shortly thereafter being codified and issued. 2, this fits the intent of the commercial flex space units project, which is currently applied for in the final plat phase with preliminary and site plan applications approved in the summer of this year. The applicant is allotted around 280 residential ERUs, and they currently won't be hitting that number, anywhere close to that number with their trajectory of their single family and multifamily. And so this new live work dwelling units meets the intent of the mixed use development in the town center zoning. However, this will need separate site plan approval in addition to the final plat process that the commercial flex space units are at, being prior to recordation. The difference between this and the Val Paul amendments is that this development agreement amendment is only desiring one live work apartment instead of 2 that was outlined in the live work amendment for the rest of the county. I can answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is in the audience tonight. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I don't understand what the agreement amendment, first amendment means.
I suppose on the document itself, on the amendment that would be recorded, it would say something similar. It would say Basin Development Agreement, comma, First Amendment, and so on.
So they came in again, it would be Second Amendment.
Correct. I do believe this is their First Amendment. So.
And then there was some discussion that this is legislative because it's a development agreement, even though the live work did pass for the rest of the county.
Yeah, and they want to add the language to their own development agreement. Again, with the change that I mentioned about 1 unit instead of 2. That was the recommendation from our office when the applicant approached us about kind of how to get the live work dwelling unit amendment going alongside their commercial flex space unit project. That was the recommendation, was to submit a rezone application and to move forward with that.
That's all the questions I have for him.
Maybe before we get too far down the road, can you bring up the development agreement? Josh and I had a discussion before the meeting, whether amendment is necessary or not.
Amendment to the development agreement?
You can,
Yeah, my initial thought when I was talking to the applicant was that since they were modifying the entitlements contained within the development agreement, that they should modify the development agreement and include the changes that they want to put in. After talking with Chair Sessions, the language in the development agreement for residential units and for above, it says the concept plan ordinance 1904 and this agreement establish the development rights for the project, including the general use maximum residential density, which is 244 single and multifamily, intensity and general configuration for the project. The project shall be developed by the developer in accordance with the concept plan of this agreement, subject to any deviations or modifications allowed herein. And then it goes on and says down in the residential use of density, subject to section 3A, which we just read a portion of, it says, there is a section in 3A. It says, subject to the terms of this agreement and the zoning ordinance, variations to the concept plan, such as exact building locations, exact locations of open space and parking, type of commercial use, location of residential units, lots and units, and changes to building size may be varied by the developer with county council or planning commission approval, so long as the developer complies with the terms of the agreement. And then if you go down to B1, it says, subject to section 3A above, the developer may, at its reasonable discretion, determine lot configuration, locations, sizes, and types, provided that such determination shall be in substantial conformance with the concept plan, supplemental design guidelines, Morgan County Town Center design standards, and zoning ordinance. And as Councilmember Sessions and I were discussing, mixed use is already allowed use in Town Center, and so it kind of brought into question in my mind whether this is even allowed. But I said,
The amendment is allowed?
Or necessary.
or even necessary. I apologize. And so, in my discussion with Chair Sessions, I said, well, I'll let the Planning Commission determine and vote on whether it's necessary or not. And if you determine that it's not necessary because the town center already allows mixed use, we'll refund the application. We'll close out the application and refund the application fee.
Anyone?
Just, can you remind me where we got to on the Paul, or cause this, I understand it's a different matter, but where did the Paul, okay, that pass?
Yeah, County Commission approved it with the recommendations from this body. There was a couple changes that they requested, I believe, with the enforcement section, if I remember correctly, and I added that language in, and it was approved, allowing for the 2 apartments per business. But this, they're only asking for 1 apartment per business.
It's not allowed in the town center. That was the only commercial zone. It was left out.
We
Why was it?
removed it from town center because mixed use was already allowed.
So-
So even without the live work thing, they could have done that anyway.
With the mixed use, on after thinking about it, yeah, it's probably an allowed use without going through this, which is why I'm now saying it's probably an allowed use because we specifically pulled that out of the live work dwelling unit ordinance because mixed use was allowed.
That's what would have been the problem, just leaving it in.
There would have been no problem leaving it in, but we pulled it out. Mixed use is allowed in the town center zoning. After reviewing that and reading this language, it would be my opinion that we could withdraw the application and let them proceed with that as an allowed use because it is mixed use. They're not exceeding their unit count. They're substantially under their unit count, and the total commercial percentages are not diminishing.
Even if they did 2, I know they say they want 1, but even if they did 2, they still wouldn't be over their count.
No, their total count is probably around 180. They're allowed up to 244, and so these 14 units. In addition, this development agreement allows them, if the commercial doesn't sell, to convert up to a portion of that commercial into 100 additional units instead of the commercial.
I didn't know that. How long until they have to sell it?
I haven't read that part.
Like a week, and then they can put all that.
No.
See, originally it was talked
I've
like
never heard of that.
about 5 years, but I don't know what was decided or anything with the Rome.
Yeah, let me see if there's a.
Is that common in development agreements?
That was the general
I
with
don't
the
wanna
town
s-
center zone in itself, the ordinance. The
If
discussion
it didn't
was
sell, they could.
after so many years, if they couldn't find buyers for commercial, they can convert to residential. I don't know if I
100%?
No, not 100% of the commercial. They can only convert it into 100 additional single-family residential units. The term of this agreement shall be until 10 years after the agreement is recorded.
that's,
It can be extended for an additional 10 years. Yeah. Yeah, you can come up.
The additional, so McKenna Christensen, I'm with CW Land. I believe the provision that you're talking about is in order to get that additional 100 units of density capacity, which we haven't had any discussions with them, so I believe that would be. Yeah, there's a provision in the basin development agreement that we can swap and leave it, and that's where that extra 100 units would come from. But this, we just want, we have some additional ERUs that we're not gonna use, so we want to try and apply them to commercial to make our commercial more viable.
So any discussion on whether it is necessary for us to amend the development agreement?
If they would already be able to get that use, then even though I'm against live work areas, then they shouldn't have to do an application.
Seems like as long as they're not broadening it, so in other words, they don't, as long as it's less than or equal to the one that, or the broader one that's already been passed,
Right.
then if they didn't get any more entitlements, then it seems like it'd be really in conformity with what's already been allowed.
And we'll see, am I correct with the site plan again?
Well, their current site plan doesn't show the apartments, so they have to amend that.
Any opinion on this side?
I don't have a real, I don't really care about apartments.
So what do we do?
We can,
So with planning commission vote, I will withdraw the application for the applicant and refund.
Madam Chair, I move to withdraw application number 23.052.
okay, I have a motion
You wanna,
with,
with that, to say, give some language that, with the understanding that it's
For the, with
not-
the following findings.
There you go.
That the mixed use would already, or is already allowed in the town center zoning.
Thank you.
Second.
okay, I have a motion and a second, any discussion on the motion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, ready to move on to item number 7 and 8. We probably can address those at the same time.
Given how we handled the PC zoning district overlay, I'm hoping we can set up a work session time that we can handle both the flag lots and the detached accessory dwelling units, either together or separately. So that way we can sit around the table, talk it out, hash it out, and that's kind of the only thing we worry about at that meeting. So tonight, if there's a day within the next couple weeks, if you want to meet before the next planning commission meeting or on a Wednesday or whatever works for you, is there a way we could set up a time for that work session?
Probably not with 2 people gone.
They can be notified of it and we can tell them.
And hope they can make it. How many do we have to have there?
You have to have a quorum, 4.
We can find a,
Most of the commission members would be willing to attend, I would guess, but I know.
Or
Yeah,
are they
definitely.
coming?
Do you want me to invite the county commissioners at the same time? I mean, I can if you'd like.
I think that was really beneficial on the PC zoning.
Okay.
So I think it'd be fantastic to have everybody
At
come to
least
the
a
table
preliminary
together.
discussion before you delve into the language?
Definitely.
Okay.
Well, okay, can I make a suggestion?
You can make as many
Why don't we
suggestions as you
get
want.
the suggestions that they would like us to cover? We meet do those, and then meet with them and say, this is what we came up with based on what you suggested.
All in work sessions before the public hearing? Is that the suggestion?
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, still having a work session, but saying, give us your list of concerns so we know what we're supposed to be addressing. Because we had flag lots, now we got rid of them, now they want them back. So, like, what concerns do you want us to specifically address? And then in our own work session, we can work on those
Okay.
and then present to them what
But they've seen it.
you have.
They've seen this.
I sent them the language, and I held a work session with them, talking to them about it. There were a few items that they asked for me to address. Those will be added in, and then they said to take it through the planning commission for the flag lots. The detached accessory dwelling units, they had asked for that earlier this year. So, I mean, if you want to combine, I have no problem setting that up.
I think we can combine them.
Before we go to I'm sure we'll probably need work sessions. Is there, if for whatever unlikely reason that everybody were to agree to it and there was no changes, I mean, does everybody have feedback or changes that they want to make to this, or they had a chance to look over it? In other words, if we're gonna get to a work session and everybody's gonna say, yep, looks good, and let's move on, seems like we could technically avoid that, even though I don't anticipate that's the likely position.
If you'd like, I can send you the language again with the modifications for the flag lots that I was asked to make. And then prior to the work session, you could send me your concerns or modifications that you would make, and then that way.
We have the detached dwelling units, or that language right here.
Flag
right?
lot not added to
It's
this.
there too.
That's what I was saying. So with that language that's already proposed, do people have concerns that they would like to discuss within a work session that would be helpful? In other words, if we all agreed, then there wouldn't be any need. I'm not saying that we're going to.
I have a number of concerns I'd like to address.
I need to look over it. But yes, I can have comments.
So did you want to have that work session next week or the week after with our normally scheduled meeting? Maybe on Wednesday evening?
If it matters.
Well, if we had it on the Wednesday in between the county commission meeting and then your planning commission meeting, that might be good.
The 8th.
Give you 2 weeks to review it.
The 8th.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't just have it in the time prior to the Thursday meeting? Is there stack the two meetings together? That way
You
people
come
wouldn't
early
have to-
enough.
Yeah, I was just saying, if we came at 5 or 5:30, because isn't that what we did before? Did we have on separate
There were a
days?
there were a couple we started at 5.
But they were separate.
I'm good either way. I was just saying, if people didn't want to
I
have
don't think
to
this is
make
gonna
multiple
take that
trips.
long, is it? I mean, it's not like the PC zoning. There's not.
I don't know, Debbie smiled
No,
and laughed.
no,
I don't know.
no.
Sounds like
It
there might
shouldn't
be
take
some
too long.
info.
No,
Yeah, I didn't
you're
think
right.
it'd
It's not
take-
as
I wouldn't think so. I
Intense.
probably
There's
would.
so much info in the PC, to digest. There's not that much here.
I'd like to give you as much time with it as you'd like, though. Given the PC
That is
zoning
very
district.
kind of your job.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Josh, I'm just
Well,
curious.
then let's start at 5 on the 9th. That will give us an hour and a half, and then if we don't finish it, we can meet the next week.
What were you gonna
I was
ask?
going to ask you on the flag lot ordinance, have you or someone else taken the time to look and see how many flag lots were possible?
Possible?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I would calculate that, to be perfectly honest. I do know that there are quite a few existing flag lots already up and down Morgan Valley Drive, Highway 66. There's a few in Mountain Green that we were able to find. So they're already existing in the county. I've had several people come in and they ask, they want to do a flag lot like their neighbor, and currently that's prohibited. And they say, well, how did my neighbor get to do it? Well, I don't have an answer for that. Other than it was either done prior to the code change or it was allowed to get through the.
Josh, I've got a question.
Yep.
How does this line up with we got set PZ zoning to preserve open space, right? And and that being a mission of the county council, how does this line up with also adding open space?
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with adding open space, but it does provide.
Or how does that contribute?
Well,
'Cause it seems like those two things conflict a little.
I don't know if it deals with that at all. What it does is it'll give property owners an opportunity to divide off a portion of their land for either a child or future development that they otherwise normally wouldn't because of the frontage requirements.
Right.
So the flag lot would allow.
I'm speaking against my own self-interest here. A flag lot would work at my mom's place, and I would love to be down there. But I'm just, those two things have been going through my brain, so I wondered if that mattered or if that was something that needed to be considered.
Well, with the way the flag lot ordinance is written, your draft text, it does prohibit the number of flag lots that can be within a distance of each other. Each flag lot has to be separated by the total width of the frontage of the zone in which it's found. So you can't have multiple flag lots right next to each other. You can only have a flag lot, then you have two lots with the total frontage, and then you can have another flag lot. So it does limit the number of flag lots you can create. It'll limit the amount of infrastructure that would be required to go in. Like right now, if somebody owns a piece of property and they want to divide off a lot and go through the subdivision process, and they meet all the minimum code requirements for that subdivision, except the frontage requirements, they're putting in a street. And financial feasibility to put in a street for one extra lot,
Right. Doesn't pencil.
And the county commission requested it. They
That-
saw a
that-
need, and
I get that. I just wondered if anybody else felt like that kind of contradicted the goal of creating open space.
I mean, it technically take larger lots that have more open space and put another building on it.
I feel like flag lots just like stick houses in places that wherever they fit, let's stick a house, and that's
No, sorry, one question, and these two kind of, in my mind, intermix with the accessory dwelling units. Couldn't they also put a second, or with the flag lots, they could put a second house that they would do for the purposes of an Airbnb or whatever the case may be?
for an accessory dwelling unit, those houses would already be able to have an internal accessory dwelling unit, so the change to allow for a guest house or casita would just allow it to be detached. So our current code allows for an internal accessory dwelling unit in every residential zone, and there's specific conditions that are outlined. I gave you the text for that along
Yeah.
with my changes.
Yeah, and my question was, is it has the potential to motivate people to, because it may not normally pencil, if I can say, hey, I don't know that I want to have a full-time house here that somebody's living in, but I want to do an Airbnb, then I would go and I would be more motivated to do a flag lot. If I could do a flag lot, I may be more motivated to do so I could rent that out. Does that make sense?
I guess I'm not understanding the question. Right now, if somebody wanted an internal accessory dwelling unit, the owner of the property has to live in one of the units. And the other unit can be rented out on a long-term basis or a short-term basis. And state code prohibits me from even looking to see if people are using their houses for short-term rentals. The only way I find out about it is if a neighbor complains, or if they come into my office and say, I want to use my property as a short-term rental.
No, that I get, I'll get. Is what I was saying is, if I had a lot that was eligible for it to be a flag lot, I may be more motivated if I don't want to attach it to my current dwelling. If I can now, with the flag lot ordinance, get a second lot there, I do a detached dwelling that I would then.
Well, the flag lot would be considered a standalone, developable, recorded lot. And so you could put a home on there. You could also put a detached accessory dwelling unit on the flag lot as well, because it's a standalone lot.
It would have to be over half an acre though, based on what I read, right?
Yeah, and that was based on Commissioner McConnell recommending that I previously had it in there for 1 acre or larger, and he said he didn't see any reason why half acres shouldn't be allowed to do it as well. There are other restrictions in our code that would limit the size of any accessory dwelling unit that's put on a property, and that's setbacks and overall lot coverage would have to be met. And every residential zoning district has a lot coverage requirement.
Or one other just a request is for when we do our work session, would you be able to give us, you already did to a degree, but a run through on the practical ability to or patrol or enforce the Airbnb type of things that would, in other words, there's the what is illegal or legal and what are we actually able to do, because that would, or seems like if we were trying to approach it from a practical reason, we may want to see, or we may want to be informed of what you can actually do with code.
Yeah, I could speak about it during our work session if you'd like. Our code has a section for short-term rentals, and there's a list of things that they have to comply with in order to do a short-term rental. So legally, they have to comply with that, according to Morgan County, but legally, according to state statute, I can't even look to see if you're doing it or not. So it just,
Because I just want to, if we're going to address language or craft an amendment, we might as well make it so that it can be practically enforced. In other words, if it's legally, technically accurate, enforceable, but with the state law, you're never going to be able to look at it or be able to understand it. It seems like it's kind of.
yeah, I mean, if detached accessory dwelling units are approved and they're allowed in the county, those will be regulated by the building code. So if they don't come in and get a building permit to construct it, we do have some enforcement for that, along with liening the property with a notice of non-compliance, so that title companies would see that the house would have a hard time selling it.
Okay. Yeah. So if you just, it'd be good to have that for the work meeting. So take a look.
So we're gonna do this the 9th then?
9th at 5 o'clock is that the time you
Yeah.
said?
Just put it in my calendar.
Calendar. So if we could have a motion to postpone items.
We'll just advertise it again as a work
Okay.
session for that day on the state website.
Okay.
And then we may have to do something more if the county commission is gonna be there as well.
Okay.
So I'll make sure we meet all notification requirements for the state, to hold that meeting on the 9th.
Okay. Okay, we're ready to move on.
Item number 9, Lance Terrell was gonna give you a presentation on the completed draft of the map.
Can I give one, or ask one more thing to skip back?
Okay, go ahead.
Just on with the detached dwelling units, do we have any ability or understanding or estimate as to how many people are doing it even though they're not in conformity?
I
I
don't
know
have
that you can't patrol it, I'm just giving it a general estimate.
for short-term rentals, I have absolutely no idea how many people in the county are doing
There's not that
I-
many.
I have no idea, so I just was
it.
curious.
I think there's more than what we know, but I don't have a total amount. I know that the Rome townhomes, the last figure I heard was 75% of those townhomes were sold to investors for short-term rental purposes.
I mean, it'd be just good to know if it's already going on to a considerable amount, then how we could approach it to make it a better system.
Are you talking about what's approved or what's active? 'Cause if you
I'm
look
saying
at-
active, I'm not saying approved, I'm
Yeah,
saying how many
If you look
people
at what's
are.
active right now, I know this just because of what I do. And trying to help people find spots. And very recently, I've been looking for like Airbnb options, so I feel like I've seen just about everything that's out there.
Oh,
There's not that many currently. The Roan townhomes, I don't know if 75% is accurate, but there's a lot of people that got really excited. We'll see how many of those are still there
and there's a difference between
after this winter.
There's a difference between Airbnbs and short-term rentals in our code, just so you know, they're treated differently.
I'm just curious, what's the difference?
Airbnbs are actually listed in the land use table. They're allowed in certain zones, some with conditional use permits, some not. Short-term rentals are allowed in every single residential unit.
I guess what's the
Unless
practical difference, or
unless
how do
the
you-
HOA's got language prohibiting it, right?
Well, even then, I don't care what your HOA says. So if somebody comes into my office and says, I wanna do a bed and breakfast or short-term rental, and it's in a subdivision with an HOA, I'll approve it according to our code.
And the HOA gets it over.
It's the civil suit between that property owner and their HOA at that point. That has nothing to do with it.
So in practical nature, what is the difference between short-term rental and Airbnb?
Short-term rental, people are typically renting out the property to an individual family to come there, spend a week or a few days. Airbnbs, typically you have multiple rooms for multiple people, and there's cooking services. They provide additional services as well.
Bed and breakfast.
Your Airbnbs there, you lost me. We're talking
So
about.
I'm talking about bed and breakfast.
Okay, yeah. I'm talking
That's
about.
B&B.
I get
About
that.
the business Airbnb.
Yeah, we were
yeah,
talking about
Airbnb.
B&B.
When I'm saying that, I'm talking about the short-term rentals,
Okay.
not a bed and breakfast.
Yeah, short-term rentals, they can go in any residential zone. I can't look to see if you're doing it
Yeah. There's not too many
for now.
right now
I don't know if that'll change.
until we get some restaurants or the grocery store.
Yeah, McDonald's, come on.
Hey, that's up here. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Might
how-
have a
You got his
lease.
popcorn shop down there.
Yeah.
Commissioners, the clerks would have that information about how many short-term rentals there are around the county just on renewing of licenses.
That's if
For
they-
the ones that have gone
Ones
through
that
the
have.
process.
Yeah. That wouldn't include anyone that's ignored.
Do you want to finish your
So-
discussion on?
Yeah, so,
Area plans.
the Mountain Green and Peterson area plan, Lance Terrell was gonna give a presentation, he had a family emergency. So, he's asked if we can just, move it to another date, and he'll be here. So we're thinking the 9th, of moving to that night.
Can you maybe post it on the website, those
Sure.
for interested parties that maybe would like to maybe look at it too?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll email him and see if I can get, the most recent, the final draft, cause I don't know if I have it.
It can be labeled, yeah, draft or watermark or something.
Okay. Well, I have a draft, but I don't know if it's.
If it's the
final
draft. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other business and or staff questions?
I don't have anything else.
Nothing? Okay.
Move to approve the agenda, or the minutes.
There is one thing on the minutes that you've got me both present and not present.
And you were not present.
I guess we'll never know.
We'll never know.
We're present in spirit.
In spirit. That's what that meant. Okay. Good catch. Okay. So now I have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned.